It's the 11th of August 2022. It's very wet here in Ireland. You're very welcome back and welcome to my new subscribers. This is about Europe's energy crunch, 47W, and I have to deal with it. This is the news. I have to see, can I give my angle on it and maybe let you know something that you haven't already heard about it. Now, the EU, as you know, are not very smart. If they were smart, we wouldn't be in such a bad crisis. They played all this wrong, and I have always been critical of them and the Irish government. They're not listening to anyone, and that's it. There were several consultations, they wouldn't listen, and they ploughed ahead. Now, I've given you the name of that video earlier, in an earlier one, to look at from the Financial Times, and it explains it all. There's no need to go back on that. Now, the trouble is that not alone is there a scarcity of fuel, but the price is going up all over the world, and I don't see this levelling off too soon. Now, they failed to prepare, and as they say, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. They failed to prepare. There'll be a shortage of gas. There'll be a shortage of gas all over Europe, and gas is the biggest trouble they have. They can get the oil to a certain amount. Now, remember, oil can be kept in a tank at normal pressure, but gas has to be pressurized and all this sort of stuff. And if it finds a leak, it'll escape into the atmosphere. So it's a big thing. Now, up to 6 months ago, Europe's whole thing was to camp carbon taxes, to stop its industry, its households, its farmers, and everybody else from burning fossil fuel. This was their plan. That's what they had in mind. They didn't seem to realise the consequences of that. Now, Ireland itself, of course, we're a basket case anyway. We have something like 230 billion euros in debt at the moment, and it has banned investing in fossil fuels. So even if we had a way of getting fuel or something, we wouldn't be allowed to invest in it. Now, the German gas firm Uniper has looked for a bailout. It's bankrupt. It can't pay its staff. It has no gas. The gas is cut off, and they have no gas to sell. And the MV and the Lloyd's shipping company has gone wallop because they made upmarket cruising vessels and all that. And between the COVID and the Ukraine, there's no market. They're gone wallop. Just think of all the apprentices and everything that goes in these big engineering firms. That's going to be a huge problem. If they shut down the engineering firms in Germany, the apprentices will have nowhere to go and they'll lose on all that skill. This is a serious problem. Take years to get back the learning for apprenticeships and the sort of things I do on the lathe, and that should be known by a good deal of people. So the bailout package announced by Herr Schulz in Germany is 19 billion euros for a start. 19 billion, in my opinion, all printed. Okay. Now, VNG is another gas supplier, and it's filed for a bailout or applied for a bailout too. It's not able to go on. It has no gas either. So the fact that they have no gas coming in from Russia shows how bad the situation is. These are the biggest gas importers, and there may be other ways of getting in by ship, just limited, but it just shows you they're looking for a bailout. They were paying fixed prices to Russia, and not only are they not getting the gas, but when they get gas, they have to pay a lot more, and they can't deal with this in the term that's available. That they'll go wallop. There's a German industrialist online there, and he says every morning the first thing he does is check the prices of electricity and gas, because they make gas. A lot of German firms use energy, much more so than in Ireland. And so now the Nord Stream 1 is stopped. The Nord Stream 1 is stopped altogether. And there's a package in the pipeline in the EU of 65 billion euros to help to bail out the situation. And the question comes, how are they able to do this? Well, it's mostly about printing money and borrowing it. And there's a thing called economic stress. All the commentators ask the question, where are they getting this money? Where are they going to keep getting all this money? They'll try and raise bonds off the bond market. Do the bond markets realise they're highly unlikely ever to get their money back? I don't believe America or Europe or Britain will be able to pay all its money back in the lifetime of anyone who owns it. So you might get it back in 100 years' time. So in the face of this hardship, they keep printing money, and you know where that will end up. Money will become worthless. Inflation. You ask any shop assistant, they can tell you. They see the prices going up by the week. This is mad hyperinflation. The only way the government can deal with the shortage of money is to print it. But who's going to accept this devalued money? That's the big thing. It's a serious problem for them. Now, on the back of all this is the fact that it looks very much, now this is I'm not sure of this, China may pick up. I know there's big problems in China. I think India will pick up big time after the COVID. They'll go mad producing again, and the fuel will be in huge demand. So even if Europe finds a way to get fuel, even if there was to be a settlement of the Ukraine war, they're going to have the problem of the price of it. Everyone's going to want it. Everyone with money is going to want it. And they're going to pay possibly better money than Europe can pay. And Putin and China and India have a little move afoot to sideline the dollar and to sideline the euro. Now, that'll take a while, but even if they weaken it a bit, how are people going to live? Now, I remember years ago in the Financial Times reading an article from a fellow that was in the oil industry in Saudi Arabia, and he said he saw them way back, that was 25 years ago, pumping ocean water into the oil wells to make the oil float up and come out. And he said that's not normal. If there was plenty of oil there, you wouldn't be doing that. And he maintained that Saudi Arabia was overstating its oil deposits or reserves. And when the Americans was in control of Saudi Arabia till about 1997, and then the Saudi government took over. But the Americans gave a certain value for the amount of reserves left for oil. We'd say it was 1 million barrels an hour or something. Since the Saudis took over, that has trebled to 3 million. They don't lose anything, and it suits Saudi to make out they have a lot of oil left, when in fact they may not. I suspect at the best Saudi Arabia has half what it has published. And you notice it never was able to step up to the plate to increase output. And when Biden recently asked them to step up and increase output, the king there, the leader, head man there said, we can't do it. He didn't say we won't do it, he said we can't. And I think that's a hidden statement. They can't increase production. It's debatable, but that Saudi Arabia is reducing its deposits, are going down, its reserves. And I was in Oman in 2009, and it was common knowledge there, no one made any secret of it, that Oman's oil reserves only last 26 years more, 26 to 6, and that they had to try and find alternatives with tourism and everything else to try and make up for the loss of the oil when it eventually runs out. Now that's 9 years ago, remember? No, it's not. Sorry, I'm not thinking right. It's 12 years ago. So 12 from 26 is 14. That would mean in 14 years, Oman will have no oil to sell. Now, Saudi Arabia is only up the road. And how do we know it would be selling a lot more than Oman? How do we know it's not the same? I suspect Saudi Arabia has overstated its oil reserves big time. That's what I believe. Now, it's possible too that Russia hasn't all the reserves that the people think. It's just possible. I'm not saying that's the case, but maybe they know there's not just an infinite resource there either, pumping such an amount every day. I'm not saying that's the case, but just bear it in mind. If that were the case and Russian fuel was going to run out in a few years, Putin would have to move now. And it would also be an excuse for him turning off the gas because he's saving it. I mean, if he hasn't got it, just bear that in mind. It's something to think about. I am almost certain Saudi is overstating its fuel, but I don't know about Russia. But just bear it in mind that maybe Putin knows that he has to move soon or he won't have all this fuel. Seems to be an inexhaustible supply of it, although it is a massive country. Now, the thing about it is too that with fuel, the EU will have to compete for whatever fuel there is. I do not see, I could be wrong on this, I do not see a return to the days of cheap energy again. And this is going to cause havoc. And if you look at it in the simple terms, supposing you're a person working all your life and you pay into a pension fund and they invest in either government bonds or industry or anything else, and suddenly the economy that you're relying on to pay your pension and your gratuity and all that is in dire straits. The oil, gas and coal that it needs is not available. Well, how can your pension be worth that much? These companies cannot pay dividends in the same way as they would normally. It looks to me that this is an economic shock greater than the 1930s. Because in the 1930s, when they went to pick up of it and Hitler went to march around, they were able to get their act together. They had no shortage of fuel. They were able to get ready for the war. They were able to do production. They were able to ramp up everything and get the money. And they had a way to spend it. There was a need for agriculture and everything. If there was a war threatened now, only the United States has the fuel. The European Union, Britain, Germany, if there were a big order for guns and all that sort of stuff, how are they going to produce it? How are they going to get it if they haven't got the basic fuel? And they have brought this on themselves because they have been demonising fossil fuel. They have allowed the likes of Greta Thunberg to call the shots and to run the show, and they're now in this situation. I don't think home generation will let out big companies. I think that for smaller companies and private individuals, having a way of generating your own electricity may be wise. I think that we will see a lot of people going to bottled gas. I think it's a product of oil. I don't think it's a product of gas wells, natural gas. You're going to see the bottled gas a lot more, and you're going to see people having to turn away. The days of the electricity grid and the lights being on as they are here now and being reliable like that may well be drawn to an end in a lot of parts of Europe. I don't know whether it will or not, but we already have got the scare. Whether it's true or whether it's false, the fact is we're already scared about it. And we have to also take into account that it's quite likely that China and Russia and India, but particularly China and Russia, have dreamt up this whole thing, have thought up all this, and have very, very carefully worked out their strategy. Yes, gas and oil is being used as a fuel. There's no doubt it's being used as a fuel, and there's consternation about it being used as a fuel. But in this war situation, I would guess that they may have forecast these sanctions and these sanctions taking place. And remember, the EU got a warning in 2014 when Russia invaded the Ukraine. Had they done that then, before the COVID, it meant 2014 you had 6.5 years before COVID struck. If they had to do this then, and when Trump was in power, it might have warned Russia. It might have been more successful, and even they did it for a while, it might have warned them off, but they didn't. They did nothing significant. They didn't ban much at all, only armaments and stuff like that, ammunition and things like that. So now we see they didn't act, and as that earlier video says, they were asleep at the wheel. We were trying to warn them. You couldn't. You might as well be talking to the wall. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens, folks. And another thing too that could happen is you could see agriculture getting hit. I hear now that a lot of farmers in Europe are giving up. A lot of big producers of food, the bigger ones, are not able to make it through, not able to go around. And then you have the EU itself, anti-farmer, and you have the people of the EU voting against the farmer. Now, I'm a farmer myself, not in a big way, but I'm a farmer, and they're against us. They're trying to give us €5,000 to get rid of a cow. Imagine doing that. It's totally mad. It's crazy. It's mad. It couldn't go on. Couldn't go on. But this invasion of Ukraine has brought it forward. It has reshaped the whole thing. It has changed the whole way the world works. And how it turns out, well, I might predict that in another video. Folks, that's it. Thank you. Give me a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Europe's energy is in crisis. Europe's industry is in crisis. People have been conditioned to fear the heat. I fear the cold a lot more. In fact, I'm surprised in a way that the government of the EU and European states have enough intelligence to understand that winter follows summer. I would have nearly thought that in August, when the weather was nice, they'd have said, well, sure, this weather will stay for good. It'll not change into winter. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's some of them king canutes like that. But they seem to know it's coming. They seem to know the hardship. People can't cook. And then if there's no electricity, you can't use many heating appliances and oil heating and all those sorts of things. So it is a real, real mess. And it looks to be getting worse. Folks, good luck. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Goodbye.